They're down 3-1. No Donovan Mitchell. Cavs lose game 4. Season on the brink. We'll talk about it on today's show.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning guaranteed. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. I am Chris Manning. That's Evan Dammarrell. Jake Stevens back on production for this one. And Cleveland loses to Boston 109-102 in Game 4. No Donovan Mitchell, who misses the game with a calf issue. Obviously no Jared Allen as well. LeBron James watching, Rich Paul watching. I would not read anything into that, really. But no Donovan Mitchell. Cavs lose. Evan, what's your takeaway?
This was, I'd say, at least the very best you're probably going to get from Cleveland without Donovan Mitchell, without Jared Allen. I think when you look across the Rubicon, Darius Garland, very, very good. Even if he had to take 27 shots, like you needed him to do that just to kind of supplant what you lacked without Mitchell. Evan Mobley played very well too. Max Strus, I think, had his best game in the postseason, flirting with an almost triple-double of 15, 7, and 7, but fouling out's not good. This is pretty much the best you're going to get without Donovan Mitchell, and the talent gap was very apparent just because Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are on a completely different level than what Cleveland has. And yeah, I don't want to say went down swinging, but you did the best you could. And you tried to, make it a 2-2 situation, but now you're down in this 3-1 hole and you shift focus to Wednesday and maybe you get Donovan Mitchell back and you kind of go down swinging in that case. But it's a very rough road ahead for the Cavs.
I think there are some parts of this game that I look at and say, okay, you can be happy with it. You can live with some of it. I don't think all of it I'm feeling great about if I'm them. I think for one, your toughness, your kind of fight, your pushing to come back, all of that, getting within 5 at one point was good.
Taking the lead at one point.
There's... they get this point where it's like they went on a 12-2 run, got all the way down to 5, and you just couldn't get any closer. That makes sense. You don't have Mitchell. You had up and down games from a lot of different guys, a lot of small stuff we'll get into that just didn't go their way. And you at least did do that. But, you were there in in post-game, they're talking about the refs. Like, to me, it's like that you were not good enough. Like, that is what this game was. It's like you don't have Mitchell. Okoro didn't give you anything offensively. LeVert was 1 of 8 from 3. Dean Wade gave you some stuff, but he's 1 of 4. Like, you just were outmatched, outgunned in this game, and despite 30 from Garland and 15 from Strus and all of that, it's just you didn't have enough, and you made a lot of little mistakes, and your season's on the brink. And this isn't a situation. I guarantee you, someone's gonna be like, "Well, the Cavs have come back from 3-1 before." Like, someone is going to do that. That's not what this team is. Like, this is the guy
who
that
made
was
that possible is sitting courtside enjoying a bottle of wine.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell on not feeling 100% with the knee and now this calf. Like, you're not going to be ready to do this kind of thing. The ref stuff. To be honest with you, I'm looking at the quotes now. Like, I don't think we got an equal opportunity is one of the quotes. I don't want to be unsympathetic. I just kind of don't care. You made a lot of other little mistakes. The refs did not decide this game. Your play decided this game to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some, egregious, not egregious, but pretty bad non-calls on the refs' part. I think the foul that should have gone Sam Merrill's way was certainly something that you could be frustrated with. I think there were a couple of moments where maybe you want to say favoritism on Boston's side, but just some bad calls that just didn't go Cleveland's way. But like you said, there were a lot of things, a lot of ticky-tack moments where Cleveland just kind of self-inflicted the wounds on themselves. They let the 3-point shot just more or less abandoned them. Like, friend of the program, John Corrales, pointed this out. Cleveland was 11 of 25 in the first half from the perimeter, and then they were 4 of 23 in the second half. And like, you can't have that if you're Cleveland. It's just not a viable path forward and just not a way for the Cavs to actually win. And sure, yeah, you can complain about the free throws, whatever you want to do. JV Bickerstaff said that Boston was only called for 1 foul or 0 fouls in the fourth, but they were called for 1 actually. And sure, that could be frustrating. But also you can't let things that you can't control, like the officiating, dictate the outcome for you. And like you said it best, the Cavs were outgunned. I was just saying, like, yeah, they can complain, and I said some of the calls were bad that maybe didn't go in Cleveland's way. But I just agreed with you saying that this is an instance of being outgunned, and I pointed out, like John Corrales pointed out, like the Cavs were their threes in the first half, and they go 4-23 in the second half, and you can't really complain about what you can't control, and what you could control didn't work out for you in terms of just 3-point shooting and kind of going guns away with that.
All right, Jake, we're going to come back in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, look, I mean, Garland's 4 of 13 from 3. LeVert's 1 of 8. Dean Wade's 1 of 4. Like, make your shots. I understand if you want to say you feel a certain way about it. To me, it's like, that's not, you're not being super accountable. It's just, you get a lot of free throw. I understand you drive a lot. I understand, like, all of that. If you're frustrated, I don't know. It's just something about that is not, like, it's not really like how a team with, like, the culture the Cavs say they do, to me, would handle themselves. I think that's pretty lame to just complain about the refs. I want to use another word that I'm not going to use. The other thing about this game that I like to give them at least some credit, it's like you in fighting back. I think in being competitive, in throwing different looks at guys, and just like scrambling and trying all the time. It's like, I think sometimes they got a little over eager, and I think that leads to some of the mistakes, but at least there was effort. Like, I think you could have seen another game here where Mitchell's out, you don't have the energy, you're worried you're going to go home, and it kind of rolls over. They didn't totally roll over. It was close. They had leads. They fought. It's just, again, like, you didn't have enough. And when you don't have Mitchell, who, like, was the center of everything that was ultimately working for you and why you won game 2 and why you had a shot in these other games, you probably weren't going to win this one. Like, I don't mean, it's not fait accompli, but it's no Mitchell. It's you might not have ever had the firepower on a night where Boston wasn't shooting itself in the foot.
Yeah, especially when, Drew Holiday was locked in, hyper efficient on 6 of 11 shooting, but like, Jason Tatum hit the big shots that mattered. Jaylen Brown was, frankly, incredible in this game for the Celtics. But it's just, it is just disappointing to look at how things have transgressed like they did for the Cavs. I think a lot of things were going their way in the first half, and Karis LeVert noted this post game, like the Celtics were making a concerted effort to kind of blitz the Cavs a little bit more, kind of pressure them more on the perimeter to make them uncomfortable so they weren't getting easier looks and just making the shots. And then Drew Holiday also said, like, they're kind of encouraging Cleveland to settle for shots on the inside, settle for inefficient mid-range shots. And I think maybe you saw a lot of that too when they weren't taking threes, is shots just that normally the Cavs shot profile doesn't necessarily say works for them. But yeah, it is what it is. Like, you can't control what you can't control, and you can't complain about what you can't control. And what you can control is just how the shot profile goes. And let me ask you this. Do you think 48 threes was too many shots for the Cavs? Do you think they should add a little bit of variance, or just like that's just the personnel and what they had, and they're trying to counterbalance the lack of Donovan Mitchell out there?
I think they had to do the 3 thing. They've outshot Boston from 3 in a couple games in terms of volume. I think this is just what they are this series. I think they understand it is what it is, and it's the personnel. And I think when you play Sam Merrill, who was 2 of 7 in his 17 minutes, like, you're just saying we have to do that kind of thing. No, to me, I don't have a problem with it. I think that's kind of what you had to do if you're going to be competitive. You had to play the math game. You didn't really have a choice.
I agree. I think you just have to play the math properly and just, like, do the math properly and just hope that, 3 is worth more than 2 and you make more than them. But it's just an unfortunate reality of the situation.
Yeah, make your shots, and make 3 more threes. Maybe a different game. All right, coming up next, let's get into some of the little stuff that didn't go wrong. I want to hit on boxing out first, which was maddeningly poor at times again. That'll be up next. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win on your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, so to me, the boxing out issue in this game, Evan, is kind of explains the little stuff that I don't think you can do. So Boston in this game, second chance point to get 16, and on 10 offensive rebounds. There's multiple. You go back and watch the game. Karis LeVert, Darius Garland, Max Strus, Evan Mobley, I think. But felt like everybody was not boxing out their guy, getting beat on offensive rebounds that they just should have had. This wasn't like these fluke offensive rebounds where they're bouncing out sometimes out to the 3-point line, and it's just like, okay, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. These are offensive rebounds that if you are actually just kind of doing what you're supposed to do and boxing out and doing the little stuff, you have a better shot. And again, I think against a team like Boston, that even if you want to nitpick them, even if you don't think they're ultimately very good, you don't think they're going to win the title, a team that has had the wins they had this year, plays the way they do, has been better than you in this series. The little stuff wins you. You can beat Charlotte on a random Tuesday in November. You can beat the Raptors. You can beat a bad team by not doing the little stuff. Against Boston,
can't afford to do it.
You have to do the little stuff. The Cavs, the offensive rebounding is one of the many little things I did not think they did well in this game.
No, and I think throughout the series, it's just it is a common trend that whomever wins the rebounding edge is won the game. And Boston won the rebounding edge in game 3. They certainly won it in game 4. Cleveland won it in game 2. Boston won it in game 1. So there are the numbers there. I did ask, this is something Evan Mobley kind of shared with me post-game in game 3, is that Boston made a concerted effort to throw or have a guy just tagging him constantly whenever the ball was up. So if a guard drove to the basket, there was somebody that was going to box him out to make sure that he couldn't crash the glass or kind of be the wrecking crew that he more or less has been in this series. The Celtics just haven't had a clean answer to Evan Mobley. They've tried Al Horford, and now they're trying just to make sure okay, let's just prevent these second chance opportunities for Cleveland. And as you had noted, that kind of in turn, we talked about this game 3 heading into game 4, you maybe see more Dean Wade or just going bigger. And I asked JB about it pre-game, and he's just yeah, we've tried everything. It's been tricky without Dean available, but we're just trying to do our best with what we have, and we don't really have many bigs depth wise that can play heavy minutes. I think in this game you saw George Niang play in the first half. You saw Tristan Thompson play some pretty good minutes in the first half too. Yep. But the Cavs went away from that for whatever reason, and I think just really try to go small, try to go 3-point heavy and just play faster and faster and faster. But Boston more or less dictated the flow. The Cavs had the lead for a brief moment in the second half, but the Celtics just piled it back on, and again, just kind of dictated the flow of this game all throughout. And kind of that's been the tale of the series all throughout.
Max Strus is another thing in this game that I thought just, you look at the box score, you're going to say, 5 of 9 from 3, that was great. I thought late he got a little rushed. He started kind of forcing some stuff, which maybe it's just desperation, maybe it's just pressure. Plays. And look, he fouled out in this game. I mean, I thought a lot of his fouls were just, they were needless. It was just
Too
jabbing
aggressive
for a rebound when he didn't need to. And it's why are you doing this? There's no point to this.
I agree. It's just pressing a little bit, being a little too aggressive when you maybe don't need to be, especially if, like you said, he is 5 of 9 from 3, but he's a guy that you could certainly have used down the stretch. The Cavs did lose this game by only 7 points, and it was, I guess, down to the wire because every key player was in this game all throughout, but having Strus would be much more beneficial than no discredit to Sam Merrill, but I think I'd rather have Max Strus than Sam Merrill just in terms of just shooting numbers at that point. But not having Strus kind of shooting yourself in the foot there because, like you said, those fouls were a little needless. They were a little unnecessary. He did pick up some tech in this game. So obviously you have to toe that line of how aggressive you can be. But there were just a lot of self-inflicted errors on Cleveland's part. And I think also Boston kind of encouraging them to keep shooting threes, and they were tightening down on them, and the Cavs happily obliged and didn't have an answer for what the Celtics were throwing at them.
What did you make of LeVert's game?
I think he was good, but he also had some boneheaded moments too, where like there's just like, oh, he's having some good plays, but then like I think about that meme or joke that like he's like, you know, the Karis LeVert roulette or whatever you want to call it, and it kept spinning and spinning and spinning, and there's moments where like he was good, there was moments he really stepped up when the Cavs needed him to, and then there was moments where he wasn't so good, and especially just on defense, there's the Celtics are kind of hunting him at times, and it's tough, it's tricky. I think it's just, you know, the knee issue is flaring up at the end, and he has played through it. And I think it's just kind of indicative of this Cavs season as a whole, is like they're kind of gassed, I'd say, just because they don't have the legs, or just, you know, the guys that they've been playing a lot, really heavily all throughout this season. But we'll see. I think he played well, but, you know, like I don't think anyone was necessarily perfect in this game either. What about you?
Yeah. I thought LeVert had, like, he scored some on twos. You kind of, I thought I kind of understood starting him, even if I think I probably would have gone with Dean Wade.
Same.
You know, he did, like, I think Wade just, if you want the other ball handler, you're still going to play LeVert anyway. Maybe easier to stagger him and Garland, who both basically played 40 minutes anyway. So that maybe that's just clearly the intention you're going for in terms of a game plan. There's also just like multiple possessions where he's just, like, there's one where he misses a box out, and then the next possession he's like coming down the floor and he's trying to throw a pass to the corner, and the pass is so far off that it like discombobulates the whole set. Like, he was just not precise enough. And again, like, that stuff adds up. Like Darius Garland, as another example, like, is, you know, he had a great second quarter. I thought this was the best game he's had in the series. He really, I think, ultimately responded. But like, it took a quarter to get going, and like, it didn't feel like he did anything in the first quarter. And this is nitpicking, because we kind of have to do that. Like, this is after a game that you lost, your season's on the line. Getting something from Darius Garland in the first quarter when he gave you nothing but, like, I think 2 assists and took 3 shots and missed all of them.
Fouls, a steal, and a turnover. And he was like, 0 of 3 from the floor, 0 of 1 from 3.
Yeah. You need a little more from Darius, who's the highest paid player in your team, who is ostensibly maybe the best guy on your team and is going to have a big handle on this game. With Mitchell out, you needed a hotter start from Garland. You didn't get it. That also adds up to why you don't win this game. Like, all of this stuff, I think, Evan, just to me adds up. This isn't like an embarrassing way to feel like your season's kind of ending, but I think they will. I think once they look back at this, and we look back at this, I think the little stuff wasn't there, and maybe it wasn't there the whole year, but I think at this game it 100% was not.
Yeah, like I keep saying, it was self-inflicted. I think Darius Garland, to your point, not turning it on until the second quarter, where he was 4 of 8 from the floor, 2 of 5 from 3, 11 points, 2 assists. Like, sure, he might be hardwired to be a guy who tries to get others involved early, but you need him to be a little bit more selfish. And sure, you want him to step up playmaking wise as well. And just kind of be more aggressive. And there were moments like the Al Horford foul on him. I think you can rightfully say that was a bad call on the officials' part. But again, that's something the Cavs cannot control and cannot let them defeat them. But Garland taking 12 minutes to get rolling and then started cooking, like, is just it. And then you even look at like third quarter, I think that's what you want from him. 3 of 4 from the floor, sure, that's fine, but he got you 6 points in those 3 or 4 shot opportunities, but also with the 2 assists. And yeah, maybe he's got those 2 fouls, but you're willing to compensate those because he's scoring and he's still giving you that playmaking bump. And then, like, in the fourth quarter, again, a very much more impactful basketball, 13 points on 5 of 12 shooting. He had 0 assists, sure, but like, you're willing to swallow that bitter pill because he is scoring and he is trying to shoot threes, and he might have pressed at times, but he's at least trying to leave it all on the line at that point to get the Cavs back into this game or maybe win and tie up the series. But yeah, him taking 12 minutes to get to that point just like a full frame is not great. And that's just kind of the way she goes.
All right, after this, where does the series go? What is left? That's up next here on Locked on Cavs. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 fantasy sports app. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions and special offers for the biggest moment in sports. PrizePicks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this basketball season. And you can play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like Meek Mill and Sugar Sean O'Malley under their promos tab. So, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is download the app today, use our code LOCKEDONNBA, and you get a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy. All right, Evan, so where does this series go? It's 3-1. I think Boston obviously overwhelmingly the favorite to advance now. Feels a little fait accompli to some degree for me in terms of where the series is going to end. But what are you looking for in Game 5? What ways could the Cavs extend this?
Well, it certainly does feel like the Cavs are circling the drain right now. Ideally, you'd get Donovan Mitchell back for Game 5 to drag this out to Game 6. Maybe you are able to just keep him healthy and consistent on the floor. But this Cavs team is pretty gassed, I'd say. Like, everyone is dealing with something, of course. But Mitchell's calf could be a time bomb just because those go hand in hand with Achilles injuries. And you don't want, ideally, if you're Mitchell, you don't want that to happen or anything to happen. And you don't want that to happen if you're the Cavs, especially if this is a guy you'd want to commit your future to long term. But I don't know. I think you, again, just give your very best effort. I think, like you said, and I agree to an extent, but the three-point shooting is what's going to keep you alive, and you have to really hope and pray if you're the Cavs that even if the Celtics tighten up on you, if they try to keep giving you those looks on the perimeter, that the shots just keep falling. And again, maybe you just don't let the refs get to you so much where like you think it's just going to dictate the entire series for you or just the entire flow of this game for you. But I don't think there's a grand conspiracy against Cleveland. The shots just weren't falling and they got frustrated the officiating in this one. But that's the only way to really do it. Donovan Mitchell's available. It certainly makes it a lot more realistic to maybe force a Game 6. But if he's not, boy, oh boy, you really have to hope and pray if you're the Cavs that those three-pointers just keep falling for you. What about what are your thoughts?
It's if Mitchell plays, you have a better chance. If he doesn't play, I think they're probably losing Game 5 regardless. I mean, I don't even know how healthy he would be if he could play. Is really the question. Like, let's say he plays,
was limping hard at the end of Game 3, limping to the podium, and like was an issue, and was the 44 minutes he played, I think, just finally got to him at the end.
Yeah, so like if that's the case, what can he give you? Is it worth really the risk of him like making the injury worse? Like it's not like it's a Game 7 for the championship or something. It's Game 5 of the second round in a series you might lose anyway. Like that's just kind of the reality you're staring down at right now. I don't think you're going to see Jared Allen either, and that's kind of unfortunate on a few fronts, but I think you're facing an uphill battle. I think Boston will be they were favored by 8 points on the road. They're probably going to be double-digit favorites. I would expect for Game 5 on Wednesday.
Well, even when Mitchell was officially ruled out, like the Woj bomb came out, and then like everything else that followed, the line shifted from 8 to 11.5. Like it could be dramatically wider in Boston, especially
you're looking at like 13, 14 if there's no Mitchell, maybe even higher. The Cavs are this is near the end. I mean, this isn't the official end, but this feels like the beginning of the final end of this season. A lot to come, a lot to sort through with that, but that's what this loss is. And I think you would just hope, like, for them, it's best effort. It's end the season on a high note as you can. Maybe you steal one more and get one more game back at home, but I don't see a path to them winning this series. I mean, I think the way the series has gone, games 1 and 3 and 4, whatever you want to say about the officiating in Game 4, like Boston dictated the flow of the game, and those 3 games all had this thing in common where Boston played like itself, and they looked like the better team. When that didn't happen in Game 2, and they acted a little weird, just like they did in the Miami series, they lost. If they just act normal and play to what they are and make the Cavs scramble and final these adjustments, particularly with no Mitchell, particularly with no Allen, and again, especially Mitchell, the Cavs I don't see a path for them to come back. I think they're staring down the beginning of the offseason right there. Might be time to look at some mock drafts.
Yeah, Rich Paul did joke, we'll say, when speaking of mock drafts, he did ask the media as he was walking into the arena, what it was, what or who. It can be, it's interchangeable. Do the Cavs need most in this draft? And I think he was, strongly hinting at Bronny as a coffee cup, wine bottle LeBron, soon sat courtside. But hey, it was a cool moment. At least they gave him a tribute video and acknowledged him being there. And as you had said at the top, there isn't much to read into it. But yeah, I think the end is not near. It's almost here for the Cavs. They do have one game. They are on a game-by-game basis after that, and they force a game 6, great. I think that's just, I think testament to maybe how this team just refuses to kind of fully die, even if it seems like it could just bow out at any moment. But boy, it is harder and harder to think about this Cavs team going much, much further. But yeah, it might be more of a draft conversation, and you start looking ahead to that versus New York or Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals, and God willing at that point. But it's tough. I think it's, it's been fun while it lasted, and we'll kind of look ahead from there. But yeah, let's just be pragmatic and realistic. I do appreciate Karis LeVert saying, because LeVert was asked point blank, if you guys were healthier, if Allen were available, if Mitchell's knee wasn't an issue, or now the calf, do you ever think about dang, this could have gone differently? And LeVert's like, no, I just have to live in the moment and kind of think about what's next. And what's next for them is they are facing elimination. I agree with you. I think it'll likely end with the Celtics winning this in 5, but if the Cavs drag this to 6, it wouldn't surprise me either. But it has to be a similar situation to game 2, and I just don't see that happening, especially with the Celtics really tightening up and taking care of business in this series.
Yeah, LeBron being there was the coolest part of the night, I would guess. I would say that's that, and just maybe the crowd getting to a certain point and feeling some energy maybe one last time this year. But LeBron being there for whatever the reason was, no idea. No one but LeBron James and Rich Paul and his wife.
He's a private citizen doing what he wants. But I will say, I did kind of wonder why the Cavs are serving up Casamigos only drinks from the pop-up bar they have near the courtside area. And then once word kind of got out that LeBron was going to be there, it made a lot more sense.
Respect LeBron for doing what he can to make sure the Lakers give him the most money possible. I do respect it.
Yeah. It's not checkers, baby. He's always thinking about the next step and use, nostalgia to fuel the Lakers paying him or another team taking notice, if that's the Cavs or somebody else. I tip the cap LeBron James, and if this results in a better, more lucrative deal between the Cavaliers and Casamigos, you know what? Him and his business partners are going to be a heck of a lot happier then.
We're going to end there. I'm Chris. That's Evan. That was game 4 of Cavs Celtics. Season on the line.
But before we go,
what?
Do you really think it's over in 5? Or do you think this goes one more?
Yeah, I do. What are the Cavs going to do without Mitchell or the hobbled Mitchell against Boston at home? Evan, you've been the more optimistic person, because the other day you said there was an 80% chance they were going to win this game. And then you kind of walked it back
about 75, 80, but I felt okay about that statement until the final buzzer sounded, and I'm like, yeah, it didn't go their way, though.
If the Cavs, I will just say this, if the Cavs win another one, it'll be a little bit of luck. That's how this happens. They're just not, they don't have it in the series, and I think that's just the reality. I think that's where this is at.
Yeah, and I agree. I think they are circling the drain a little bit. I think they could obviously drag this out a little bit further, but I really do think that this is probably it. And there's going to be, I would assume, some dramatic wholesale change coming soon after.
Yeah. All right, we're going to end there. We'll be back later this week with more Lockdown Cavs. I'm Chris, that's Evan. Thanks again to Jake Stevens. Have a great rest of your day.